Okay, so I'm in the middle of rewatching Boy Meets World because I'm listening to the podcast that Will Friedle, Daniel Fishel, and Ryder Strong, Eric Topanga, and Sean are doing right now. And they're on season 7. And so I'm rewatching the show with them. And I rewatch Boy Meets World often because it's one of my favorite 90s sitcoms. But I think this is maybe the most adult rewatch of the show I've ever done. And I'm 34 now. And we just got to the episode where Cory and Topanga have that like huge enormous fight in the middle of a student union at their college, because they're married now, and so they have that really big fight in the middle of the student union, and like everybody's watching them like have this big fight. And Cory says some really terrible things to Topanga about how Topanga killed his spirit and all of these things. Now she has a big mouth, and she calls him an imbecile. Like it's a really heated fight, right? And I think about that fight often when I hear people defending Cory and Topanga, because when I was a kid, obviously I was team Cory and Topanga. I was, of course, team Sean and Angela, like, more, but I still thought Cory and Topanga were a good couple, and I was happy when they got married and everything. And everything just, it worked in that sense. But growing up, knowingly growing up and watching the show, Cory is like the worst character of Boy Meets World. And I know the show is wrapped around his story because it's Boy Meets World, like it's boy meeting the world. And I know a lot of people have said this already, but Sean was a better character because Sean actually had character development, as well as like things happened to Sean, right? Because what happens to Cory Matthews besides him being your average middle class white dude? Sean actually went through ebbs and flows in his life. Like, he actually had to go through the fact that he's poor and he lives in a trailer park. The fact that his father apparently was a mean alcoholic drunk. The fact that when he was in 7th grade, his mother, if you've watched the show, his mother takes off with their trailer, and his dad decides to go and look for her, and literally like leaves Sean with like, where is he gonna live? And like he tries to live with the Matthews, it doesn't work, and then Sean goes to live with Mr. Turner, right? And they're having a great time. Then out of nowhere in season 4, Chet, his father, decides to come back, and that's like weird. Then his so-called mother tries to come back for like 5 minutes, then leaves again. Then it's just Chet and Sean. Then season 5, he has a whole stepbrother. Then Chet just leaves again. Then Chet dies. Then from the grave, from beyond the grave, right? We learn that Sean's mother, who we saw for all of 5 minutes season 4, and who Chet was off running around trying to find, totally not his mother. His mother was totally a stripper. And it's just weird and awkward. But his best character was when he was in a relationship with Angela, because they matched each other. She had mommy issues, and Sean had mommy issues, and it worked, and they had chemistry, and it was beautiful, and we loved it, until the show ruined it. Don't even get me started on Girl Meets World. We're not here to talk about that. But my point is that in this fight with Cory and Topanga, they fight because Cory feels like Topanga's too perfect, and that she is always getting like straight A's. She always is doing good in school. She's always doing good in everything she does in life. Like, she never, ever, ever is doing anything wrong. Like, she is just this talented person who is always, always, always on top. Everything she ever wants, she always gets, because she is just that type of person. And Cory's just this average, mediocre white dude. And he's always mad about it. He's been mad about it forever, right? And so he just blows up on Topanga, even though he technically told Topanga not to bother him that day, because he was like, I'm pissed and I just don't want to talk. But Topanga kept bothering him, so boo on Topanga on that one. But Cory didn't have to talk to her like that. Telling Topanga that she killed his spirit, like, why did you marry her then? And that goes back to season 5, when Cory totally cheats on her with Lauren from the ski lodge, and they just decide to get back together. And no matter how many problems Cory and Topanga have ever had in the history of their relationship, they seem to get back together somehow. Now, I've never been one to be in support of Topanga not going to Yale, because I believe that Topanga's too smart and Topanga's too good, and Topanga should have totally went to Yale. But of course she picked mediocre Cory instead of Yale. I would have never done that, but that's just me. Okay, Cory's too mediocre and too terrible of a person and too terrible of a friend and not a good boyfriend and not a good husband. He's just not good. He's not good. He's mediocre. And it's sad that she picked him over her dream school. Truly. She's too smart for that. But somehow they try to make us think that Cory and Topanga are this, romantic endgame, just this couple that deserve to be together forever. And I just don't agree. I don't agree. And I just think it's weird that they have them fight over the fact that Topanga's just better than Cory and always has been. And I think Cory always knew that. But at the end of the day, it feels like Cory just married Topanga for sex, because that's all he ever really wanted from her. Because it never felt like he ever really knew Topanga, cared about Topanga at all. And it's just interesting. And that fight was really like, there's been signs throughout the entire show that Cory's a terrible boyfriend. Cory just doesn't care about Topanga. Cory doesn't care about her wants, needs, or anything. Cory doesn't really even know her that well. But this fight really put it into perspective, to the point where Cory's a terrible, 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 terrible husband. And furthermore, a terrible, 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 terrible friend to Sean, because not even a few episodes before, when Cory and Topanga first are off their honeymoon and they're looking for an apartment, and they find this apartment, this like student housing apartment or whatever, and Cory is not living at his standard of living, okay? Because he's lived in the cushy life of middle class his entire life. So he doesn't know really what it feels like to be poor of any sense. And so when Sean and Angela come over to visit Cory and Topanga in their little, for all intents and purposes, shithole, he is so rude. Cory's just so rude to Sean. Like, he gets in his face and is like, you're living in this cushy apartment, because Sean's living in the apartment that him, Eric, and Jack lived in during season 5, and it's just him and Angela in that apartment at this point. But he's like, you're living in this apartment that you didn't have to pay for, you didn't do anything to get it, you don't have to actually work for it, you get all this cushy life and you don't have to do anything for it, and I'm living in this shithole. And it's like, no, Cory, Sean did have to fight for this. He does deserve to live in the lap of luxury at this point, because have you even watched his life? Like, you're such an a-hole, and it's so sad. And it's just like, if they had cut Cory out of Boy Meets World 100% and just made the show around Sean, much better show, first of all. And even before Angela, love her down, but even before Angela, I could have saw Sean and Topanga together. They would have made a really cute couple. But yeah, I hate Cory Matthews. Cory Matthews is really the blight on Boy Meets World, and it really sucks. And a really good show, but Cory's just the blight on the entire show, and it's really, really sad.